I never thought my own blood could turn against me. But the night my house went up in flames, I realized just how far betrayal could reach. It started like a whisper, a faint crackle in the silence, so soft I almost dismissed it as the old heater groaning against the bitter Milwaukee cold. My house was small, quiet, and creaky. It made noises all the time. But then the smell hit me, acrid, sharp, like burned rubber mixed with gasoline. By the time I rose from the couch, the living room curtains were already glowing orange, the fabric curling in on itself as fire licked upward toward the ceiling. At first I froze. My brain refused to process what my eyes saw. It was winter, below freezing. Fires didn't just happen. Not here. Not to me. But the next second, the flames leapt higher, stretching greedy fingers across the wall, devouring the family photos that had taken me years to frame. My lungs filled with smoke, hot and poisonous, clawing at my throat. The air itself seemed to thicken, turning every breath into razor blades. Move, I told myself, but my legs felt like stone. For a terrifying moment I thought, this is it. This is how I die. Then glass shattered. The kitchen window exploded outward, spraying shards across the floor, and adrenaline surged through me. I staggered backward, coughing violently, my eyes streaming. Every sound became sharper, the popping of drywall, the howl of fire as it claimed another room, the crack of timber beams surrendering to heat. I stumbled through the hallway, the smoke blinding me. My shoulder slammed against the wall, skin scraping raw, but I didn't stop. The house I had built with my own two hands, the second-hand furniture, the shelves I'd installed, the battered desk where I had written late into the night, was collapsing around me. As I reached the front door, my hand brushed against the small table in the entryway. On it was a single frame, a photograph of Grandma and Grandpa taken years ago. Their smiles bright, their arms wrapped around me during one of the only birthdays that ever felt like mine. The edges of the frame were already scorching. Without thinking, I snatched it up, the glass burning my palm, and then I was outside, gasping, choking, collapsing into the snow. The freezing air hit me like a slap, shocking my lungs back into motion. I rolled onto my side, watching in horror as the house roared behind me, flames punching into the night sky, sending a column of smoke high above Milwaukee's sleeping streets. Neighbors emerged from their homes, some with coats hastily thrown over pajamas, others clutching children to their sides. Their faces flickered orange in the firelight, their eyes wide. "Is anyone inside?" someone shouted. "No," I croaked, though I doubted they even heard me over the roar. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer, but they might as well have been miles away. My life was already gone. The couch where I had fallen asleep watching late-night movies. The shelf of books I had collected one at a time with spare change. The small box in my bedroom filled with mementos, old report cards, drawings, a watch from Grandpa. All of it was ash now. And then my phone buzzed in my pocket. My hands shook as I fumbled to answer. "Hello? Daniel?" Grandma's voice trembled, brittle as glass. "Are you safe? Are you? Oh God, please tell me you're safe." I'm outside," I managed, coughing. "The house is gone. It's—" "Listen to me." Her voice dropped, urgent. "He said something about gasoline. I heard him, in the garage. He said your name, Daniel. He said he'd take everything from you. You have to believe me. Grayson did this." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. Gasoline. That one word sank its teeth into my chest, sharper than any blade. I pressed the phone harder to my ear. "What are you saying?" "I heard it with my own ears," she cried. "He argued with your father, said you didn't deserve what you had, Said you thought you were better than him. Then I heard him laugh. The smell of gas was everywhere. I stared at the fire, unable to move. My mind reeled, refusing to accept it, but the pieces fit too perfectly. The smell I noticed before the flames, the way they spread too quickly, unnaturally fast, and now her words. My brother, Grayson. I whispered the name like it was poison. Smoke stung my eyes, but the tears weren't just from the fire. Memories clawed their way back, shards of a childhood defined by one truth. Grayson was the chosen one, and I was the shadow. At Christmas, Grayson tore into gifts wrapped in gold paper. New gadgets, brand-name clothes, toys so expensive neighbors whispered about them. My gifts? Socks. A puzzle missing pieces. Sometimes nothing at all, just a muttered, "We'll do more next year," that never came. At school, when I brought home straight A's, the report card went into a drawer without a word. When Grayson scraped by with C's, Dad threw him a party. I still remember one summer when I spent weeks mowing lawns, sweating under the hot sun, saving every dollar to help buy him the bike he wanted so badly. I gave up my chance at a school trip for it. He rode it twice, then left it rusting in the yard, and still, I loved him, defended him, took the blame when he got caught sneaking out, covered for him when he failed classes, believed somehow that blood meant loyalty. Now that same brother had set my life on fire, literally. By the time the fire trucks arrived, spraying water onto the skeleton of my home, I was already in my car. I couldn't stand the looks from the neighbors, pity mixed with judgment, like they were already writing the story of how careless I must have been. The steering wheel was ice cold under my hands. My breath fogged the windshield as I drove, Milwaukee's streets a blur of snow and neon. My chest heaved, every inhale scraping against the smoke still burning in my lungs. At every stoplight, memories collided with reality. The night Grayson crashed Dad's car drunk, and I was grounded for not stopping him. The time Mom defended his insult, saying, "He doesn't mean it, he's just stressed." The countless nights I lay awake wondering if maybe I was the problem, if maybe I really was less deserving of love. Now, as the streetlights flickered over my hood, I realized the truth. It wasn't me. It had never been me. Grayson had always been their golden child, and I had been disposable. I didn't know where I was going until the driveway appeared before me. My parents' house glowed with warmth, lights twinkling through frosted windows, the sound of muffled laughter spilling into the frozen air. It was Thanksgiving. While my life burned, they were feasting. I slammed the car door and marched up the steps, boots crunching on snow. My hand trembled as I shoved open the door. The smell hit me instantly. Roasted turkey, cinnamon pie, gravy. The kind of smell that should have meant home, comfort, but now it curdled my stomach. Inside, the family was gathered. Plates piled high, wine glasses clinking, the glow of candles dancing across smiling faces. And there he was, Grayson, sitting on the couch like a king, food in hand, phone in the other. He looked up as I entered, and that smirk, God, that smirk spread across his face. "Did you do it?" My voice cut through the chatter like a blade. The room froze, forks paused mid-air, conversations died. Grayson raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. "Do what?" I stepped closer, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. "The fire, my house. Did you set it?" For just a second I saw it, a flicker of fear in his eyes, a crack in the mask. Then it was gone, replaced by lazy mockery. Mom jumped up, blocking me. "Daniel, stop this madness, not tonight. It's Thanksgiving." "Thanksgiving?" My voice cracked. "While my home is still burning?" Dad's face twisted. "You're out of line. Your brother would never—" "He would," I snapped. "And you know it. You've spent your whole lives covering for him, excusing him, but this time he went too far. He tried to erase me." Grayson smirked, but his hand tightened on his fork. His eyes darted, just for a moment. He knew. I searched their faces, desperate for recognition, for truth, for them to look past their blind loyalty and finally see me. But Mom's eyes were filled with tears, not for me, but for him. "You need help, Daniel," she whispered. "You're bitter, paranoid, always blaming your brother. Can't you see how toxic this is?" My father's silence was louder than her words. His jaw was clenched, his stare heavy with disappointment. And in that silence I understood. They would never choose me. They never had. The fire hadn't just destroyed my house. It had revealed the truth I'd been avoiding for years. I was alone in this family. Without another word, I turned, walked out, and let the door slam behind me. The cold hit me like knives, the laughter resuming faintly behind the walls. Snowflakes swirled in the air, landing on my scorched photo frame as I clutched it to my chest. I stood in the driveway, staring at the house that was never mine, the family that had never been mine. And I whispered into the night, a vow sharper than the flames that had consumed my home. This isn't over, this is war. The night after the confrontation at my parents' house, sleep refused to come. I lay in my friend Alan's guest room, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the faint hum of the radiator. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw fire. I smelled gasoline. I heard Grayson's smirk echoing in my head like a ghost. I turned over again and again, the photo of Grandma and Grandpa clutched in my hands, my thumb tracing the charred frame. Every heartbeat reminded me I had lost everything. Not just my home, but my sense of safety, of belonging. And worst of all, my parents had looked at me like a stranger while protecting the very man who had tried to destroy me. At some point, I must have drifted into a shallow, restless sleep. But it was shattered by a nightmare so vivid I woke drenched in sweat. In it, flames rose again, higher, brighter, swallowing not just my house but me, until I could taste my own ashes. I sat up, gasping, the clock reading 4:17 a.m. I knew I couldn't survive this alone, not anymore. Later that morning, I found Alan in the kitchen, pouring coffee into 2 chipped mugs. He'd been my friend since high school, the kind of friend who never asked why you vanished for weeks, but always showed up when you called. He slid a mug toward me. "You look like hell, man." I wrapped my hands around the warmth. "I need help." Alan nodded, waiting. I swallowed hard. "Grayson did it. He set the fire. Grandma heard him. She heard him talking about gasoline, about me. But my parents—" My voice cracked. "They protected him. Again. They looked at me like I was insane." Alan leaned back, arms crossed. His jaw tightened. "I believe you, but belief isn't enough. If you want justice, you need proof." "I know," I whispered. He hesitated, then said, "There's someone. A guy I know, Victor Ramirez. He's a private investigator. Ex-cop, sharp as hell. He doesn't scare easy, and he's good at digging where cops won't. If Grayson left a trail, Victor will find it." I looked at Alan, hope flickering weakly in my chest. "You think he'll take the case?" Alan smirked faintly. "If you tell him the truth, yeah. He lives for this kind of thing." The coffee shop smelled of roasted beans and cinnamon, warm against the icy air outside. My hands shook as I clutched the paper cup, the heat seeping into my palms but not reaching the chill in my bones. Victor Ramirez arrived exactly on time. He was in his late 40s, lean, sharp-eyed, with a weathered leather jacket and a notebook already in hand. He sat across from me, studying me with the kind of gaze that saw more than you wanted to reveal. Alan introduced us, then Victor leaned forward. Tell me everything, from the beginning. So I did. I told him about the fire, the smell of gasoline, Grandma's warning, the confrontation at Thanksgiving, my parents' denial. My voice shook, cracked, but I forced myself through every detail. Victor scribbled notes, his face unreadable. When I finished, he tapped his pen against the notebook. Gasoline, he said. That's the key. Arson leaves patterns. If your brother bought gas, if anyone saw him, if he slipped up even once, we'll find it. Will the police care? I asked bitterly. My parents protect him. They'll say I'm making it up. Victor's eyes hardened. The police care about evidence, not family drama. My job is to give them that evidence. Witness statements, surveillance footage, receipts. If your brother left fingerprints on this crime, we'll uncover them. Something in his voice steadied me. For the first time since the fire, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't powerless. Victor wasted no time. That very afternoon, he visited the gas station 2 blocks from my old neighborhood. I went with him, heart pounding, watching as he flashed his PI license and asked to review security footage from the night of the fire. The clerk, a young guy with tired eyes, shrugged. We delete most of it after a week, but we keep backups for incidents. Hold on. Minutes later, the grainy footage flickered on the monitor. My breath caught. There, clear as day, was Grayson's car, pulling up to the pump. I leaned forward, pulse racing. The timestamp matched the night of the fire. Grayson stepped out, hoodie pulled low, but unmistakably him. He grabbed a red container from his trunk, filled it, glanced around nervously, then sped off. My chest tightened. Got him, Victor murmured, already jotting notes. Now we lock this down. Copies, backups, statements, one piece at a time. That evening, I forced myself to return to the charred remains of my house. The firefighters had long since left, leaving only blackened skeletons and a faint smell of smoke that clung to everything. Snow had begun to settle on the ruins, soft white against deep black. I stepped over the rubble, crunching glass beneath my boots, my eyes tracing the outlines of what had once been my living room. There was the spot where my bookshelf stood, now a collapsed pile of cinders. The place where my couch had been, nothing left but twisted springs. Every step was a memory. Late nights spent writing, friends laughing over pizza, quiet mornings with coffee, all gone. I knelt, sifting through the debris with trembling hands. My hands shook as I clutched the paper cup, the heat seeping into my palms but not reaching the chill in my bones. Victor Ramirez arrived exactly on time. He was in his late 40s, lean, sharp-eyed, with a weathered leather jacket and a notebook already in hand. He sat across from me, studying me with the kind of gaze that saw more than you wanted to reveal. Alan introduced us, then Victor leaned forward. Tell me everything, from the beginning. The confrontation at Thanksgiving, my parents' denial. My voice shook, cracked, but I forced myself through every detail. Victor scribbled notes, his face unreadable. When I finished, he tapped his pen against the notebook. Gasoline, he said. That's the key. Arson leaves patterns. If your brother bought gas, if anyone saw him, if he slipped up even once, we'll find it. Will the police care? I asked bitterly. My parents protect him. They'll say I'm making it up. Victor's eyes hardened. The police care about evidence, not family drama. My job is to give them that evidence. Witness statements, surveillance footage, receipts. If your brother left fingerprints on this crime, we'll uncover them. Something in his voice steadied me. For the first time since the fire, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't powerless. Victor wasted no time. That very afternoon, he visited the gas station 2 blocks from my old neighborhood. I went with him, heart pounding, watching as he flashed his PI license and asked to review security footage from the night of the fire. The clerk, a young guy with tired eyes, shrugged. We delete most of it after a week, but we keep backups for incidents. Hold on. Minutes later, the grainy footage flickered on the monitor. My breath caught. There, clear as day, was Grayson's car, pulling up to the pump. I leaned forward, pulse racing. The timestamp matched the night of the fire. Grayson stepped out, hoodie pulled low, but unmistakably him. He grabbed a red container from his trunk, filled it, glanced around nervously, then sped off. My chest tightened. Got him, Victor murmured, already jotting notes. Now we lock this down. Copies, backups, statements, one piece at a time. That evening, I forced myself to return to the charred remains of my house. The firefighters had long since left, leaving only blackened skeletons and a faint smell of smoke that clung to everything. Snow had begun to settle on the ruins, soft white against deep black. I stepped over the rubble, crunching glass beneath my boots, my eyes tracing the outlines of what had once been my living room. There was the spot where my bookshelf stood, now a collapsed pile of cinders. The place where my couch had been, nothing left but twisted springs. Every step was a memory. Late nights spent writing, friends laughing over pizza, quiet mornings with coffee, all gone. I knelt, sifting through the debris with trembling hands. My hands shook as I clutched the paper cup, the heat seeping into my palms but not reaching the chill in my bones. Victor Ramirez arrived exactly on time. He was in his late 40s, lean, sharp-eyed, with a weathered leather jacket and a notebook already in hand. He sat across from me, studying me with the kind of gaze that saw more than you wanted to reveal. Alan introduced us, then Victor leaned forward. Tell me everything, from the beginning. So I did. I told him about the fire, the smell of gasoline, Grandma's warning, the confrontation at Thanksgiving, my parents' denial. My voice shook, cracked, but I forced myself through every detail. Victor scribbled notes, his face unreadable. When I finished, he tapped his pen against the notebook. Gasoline, he said. That's the key. Arson leaves patterns. If your brother bought gas, if anyone saw him, if he slipped up even once, we'll find it. Will the police care? I asked bitterly. My parents protect him. They'll say I'm making it up. Victor's eyes hardened. The police care about evidence, not family drama. My job is to give them that evidence. Witness statements, surveillance footage, receipts. If your brother left fingerprints on this crime, we'll uncover them. Something in his voice steadied me. For the first time since the fire, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't powerless. Victor wasted no time. That very afternoon, he visited the gas station 2 blocks from my old neighborhood. I went with him, heart pounding, watching as he flashed his PI license and asked to review security footage from the night of the fire. The clerk, a young guy with tired eyes, shrugged. We delete most of it after a week, but we keep backups for incidents. Hold on. Minutes later, the grainy footage flickered on the monitor. My breath caught. There, clear as day, was Grayson's car, pulling up to the pump. I leaned forward, pulse racing. The timestamp matched the night of the fire. Grayson stepped out, hoodie pulled low, but unmistakably him. He grabbed a red container from his trunk, filled it, glanced around nervously, then sped off. My chest tightened. Got him, Victor murmured, already jotting notes. Now we lock this down. Copies, backups, statements, one piece at a time. That evening, I forced myself to return to the charred remains of my house. The firefighters had long since left, leaving only blackened skeletons and a faint smell of smoke that clung to everything. Snow had begun to settle on the ruins, soft white against deep black. I stepped over the rubble, crunching glass beneath my boots, my eyes tracing the outlines of what had once been my living room. There was the spot where my bookshelf stood, now a collapsed pile of cinders. The place where my couch had been, nothing left but twisted springs. Every step was a memory. Late nights spent writing, friends laughing over pizza, quiet mornings with coffee, all gone. I knelt, sifting through the debris with trembling hands. I found a warped spoon, a scorched journal, a melted clock, relics of a life stolen. Dad's call came next, colder. "If you keep this up, Daniel, you'll regret it. Families survive when they stand together. You're tearing ours apart." I laughed bitterly. It was never together to begin with. They hung up on me. Each word from them cut deeper than the fire. Not only had my brother betrayed me, they were willing to let me burn rather than face the truth. Victor worked tirelessly. He interviewed neighbors who confirmed seeing Grayson's car that night. One elderly man recalled the smell of gasoline in the air hours before the fire. Meanwhile, I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw flames creeping under the door, licking at my bed. I heard Grayson's voice in the crackle of the fire, mocking, triumphant. I began carrying Grandma's photo with me everywhere, keeping it in my pocket like a talisman. Her words echoed. Sometimes being strong doesn't mean enduring forever. Sometimes you fight for yourself. I was ready to fight. One night, as I sat at Alan's kitchen table, Victor arrived with a folder thick with documents. He laid it down like it was a weapon. "Daniel," he said, his voice steady, "we have him. Surveillance footage, witness accounts, gasoline purchase records. The case is airtight. The question is, are you ready to confront him? Because this won't just break your brother, it will shatter your family." I stared at the folder, my hands trembling. For years I had been silent, invisible, the unwanted son, but no more. I clenched my fists, meeting Victor's gaze. "I'm ready." The folder of evidence sat on Alan's kitchen table for days, like a bomb waiting to go off. Thick, heavy, undeniable. I could barely stand to look at it, yet I couldn't put it away. Every time I passed by, it seemed to whisper to me, "Use me. Expose him." But proof, I realized, is a double-edged sword. Once I wielded it, there'd be no turning back. My family would hate me more than they already did. Grayson would lash out. The fragile facade of family that I'd spent my whole life trying to keep together would shatter for good. And yet, the image of my burning house would return every time doubt crept in. The smell of gasoline, the crackle of flames eating away my memories, the smirk on Grayson's face when I confronted him. I couldn't unsee it. Sleep became impossible. Every night I'd lie awake in Alan's guest room, staring at the faint shadows moving across the ceiling. The house would creak as the winter wind pushed against it, and my heart would leap like someone was outside. More than once, I slipped out of bed, grabbed the baseball bat Alan had left by the door, and checked every lock in the house. I'd test the windows, tug at the deadbolt, pace back and forth until my legs ached. Sometimes I'd stand at the window, peering through the blinds at the snow-covered street, half expecting to see Grayson's car idling in the dark. "There's a paper trail here, we just have to connect it." Alan whistled low. "Sounds like a pattern." Victor nodded. "Exactly. A pattern of recklessness, violence, and escalation. The fire wasn't random, it was the next step." I sat back, absorbing his words. For years I had carried the weight of Grayson's cruelty like it was my burden alone. But now, in black and white, it was proof. Proof that his darkness wasn't just in my head. It was real, documented, dangerous. The days between finding the threat note and Thanksgiving blurred together into a fog of sleepless nights and gnawing dread. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me wherever I went. When I walked down Milwaukee's icy sidewalks, I caught myself glancing over my shoulder every few steps. A car idling too long at an intersection made my pulse spike. Even the creak of Alan's old house at night became a sinister whisper in my mind. My paranoia was eating me alive. But beneath the fear was something sharper, heavier, anticipation. I knew a confrontation was coming. I could feel it in my bones. At night, the shadows in Alan's guest room became my enemies. I would lie in bed, listening to the radiator groan, watching headlights sweep across the ceiling as cars passed. Every flicker of light looked like flames. Every whisper of wind outside sounded like footsteps. When sleep finally claimed me, it was cruel. In my dreams, the fire replayed in excruciating detail. I'd be trapped in my burning house again, smoke clawing down my throat, flames licking at my legs. But this time, Grayson stood in the doorway, holding a red gasoline can, smiling as the fire consumed me. I would wake gasping, drenched in sweat, clawing at the sheets as if I could put out invisible flames. Alan would find me pacing the living room at 3 a.m., staring out the window with the bat in my hand. "He's not here," he'd say gently, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're safe, Daniel. He can't touch you right now." But I never felt safe, not really. Victor worked tirelessly, his presence becoming a constant in my life. Every morning he would arrive with fresh notes, new discoveries, more evidence that painted Grayson as reckless, unstable, and dangerous. One day, he tossed a folder onto the table, his sharp eyes gleaming. "Got something." Inside were police reports, 3 separate incidents. Bar fight, 2019. Grayson had smashed a bottle over another man's head. Charges dropped after Dad talked to the right people. Workplace theft, 2020. Co-workers accused him of skimming money from the register. He quit before the investigation closed. Noise complaints, multiple. Neighbors reported shouting, threats, even property damage. Victor tapped the papers. "This is the pattern I told you about. Escalation. He didn't just wake up one day and decide to torch your house. He's been spiraling for years. Your parents kept sweeping it under the rug." My throat tightened as I stared at the documents. Proof that everything I had felt for years, the favoritism, the blind protection, the gaslighting, wasn't just paranoia. It was real. "They'll still deny it," I muttered. "They'll say it was boys being boys, or that I'm jealous. They'll twist this until I'm the villain." Victor's voice was calm but firm. "Then we don't give them room to twist. Thanksgiving is your moment. We lay everything on the table. You force the truth into the open, where denial can't smother it anymore." As Thanksgiving crept closer, the pressure from my parents grew unbearable. Mom called one evening, her voice breaking with rehearsed sorrow. "Daniel, please, don't do this. Grayson is fragile right now. He needs support, not attacks. You'll ruin everything if you come after him." I clenched the phone. "Fragile? He burned down my home, Mom. He could have killed me." Her voice sharpened. "You don't know that. Fires happen, accidents happen. You've always been so dramatic, Daniel, so desperate to blame him." I shut my eyes, the words digging like claws. "I'm not desperate. I'm done being silent." She sobbed, then whispered, "If you loved this family, you'd let it go." When I hung up, my hands shook, not from guilt, but from rage. They weren't protecting him out of love. They were protecting themselves, their golden image of the perfect son, the perfect family. Dad's call came the next night, colder, sharper. Listen to me, Daniel. Families survive when they stand together. If you turn this into a circus, if you expose your brother, you'll regret it. My jaw clenched. I already regret trusting you my whole life. There was silence on the other end. Then the line went dead. It wasn't just my parents. Grayson himself was starting to crack. One evening I spotted him downtown. He was outside a bar, his hoodie pulled low, pacing like a caged animal. His hands shook as he lit a cigarette, his eyes darting nervously. For a moment he looked small. Not the smug, untouchable brother I'd always known, but a man unraveling under his own weight. But then he spotted me across the street. His smirk returned instantly, masking the fear. He raised his hand in a mock salute, mouthing words I couldn't hear but could read clearly. "You'll never win." And just like that, the image of weakness was gone, replaced by the monster who had burned my life to ashes. The only solace came from Grandma. She came to Alan's house one frosty afternoon, her cane tapping softly against the wooden floor as she entered. Her eyes, weary but unflinching, found mine. We sat at the kitchen table and she took my hands in hers. Her skin was paper thin, her grip fragile, but her voice carried the weight of truth. "I've known for years," she said softly. "I saw how they treated you. I saw how they made excuses for him, and I stayed silent because I thought maybe it would balance out. Maybe you'd find your own path and it wouldn't matter." Her eyes filled with tears. But I was wrong. Silence doesn't protect. It destroys. I swallowed hard, my throat burning. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid of losing them, afraid of making things worse for you. But I see now, the worst was already happening." She leaned closer, her voice trembling but fierce. "You mustn't back down, Daniel. They'll lie, they'll deny, they'll twist. But you have truth now, you have strength, and you must use it, even if it tears the family apart. Some families deserve to be torn apart." Her words pierced me deeper than fire ever could. For the first time, I didn't feel completely alone. As Thanksgiving approached, the air itself felt heavy. Every step, every hour carried me closer to the confrontation I both dreaded and craved. Victor delivered the final touches to the case: statements, receipts, surveillance stills, even timelines laid out neatly. "Tomorrow," he said, "you walk in there with this. Not as the forgotten son, not as the victim, but as the one who finally forces the truth into the light." That night, I laid the folder on Alan's table and just stared at it. My hands hovered over it, trembling. Inside were the weapons I would wield against my own blood, my own parents. I thought of the fire, of the gasoline, of the smirk. I thought of Mom's tears, Dad's threats. I thought of Grandma's frail hands squeezing mine. And I whispered to myself, tomorrow everything changes. The next morning I dressed in silence. My hands shook as I slid the folder into my bag. Alan clapped my shoulder. "You've got this. No matter what happens in there, you've already won by standing up." Grandma kissed my forehead, her voice steady. "Be strong, and don't let them twist you anymore." The drive to my parents' house felt endless. Every street sign, every familiar landmark carried memories I wanted to forget. My chest tightened as their house came into view, glowing warm, inviting, the smell of turkey and cinnamon already spilling into the crisp air. I parked, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. This was it, the moment before war. I grabbed the folder, opened the car door, and stepped into the cold, my breath fogging in the air. And as I walked toward the door, I told myself, this time I will not be silenced. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey when I stepped inside. The warmth of the oven spilled into the hallway, wrapping around me. But it wasn't comforting. It was suffocating. Voices floated from the dining room, laughter, clinking glasses, the easy rhythm of a family gathering. It could have been any other Thanksgiving, but for me, it wasn't. For me, this was war. I tightened my grip on the folder in my hand, my fingers trembling. Each step down the hallway felt heavier than the last. When I entered the dining room, all eyes turned to me. The long oak table was crowded with relatives, uncles, aunts, cousins, all smiling, plates piled high with food. At the head sat my father, his expression already hardening as he saw me. Beside him, my mother dabbed her lips with a napkin, eyes darting nervously. And across from them, lounging with casual arrogance, was Grayson. He leaned back in his chair, a glass of wine in his hand, that smirk carved into his face like it had been waiting just for me. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," he drawled. The room chuckled lightly, though unease flickered in some eyes. I didn't answer. I pulled out a chair at the far end of the table and sat, the folder resting on the tablecloth in front of me. For a moment, silence reigned. Forks hovered midair. Conversations faltered. Everyone waited. I looked around the table, my voice low but cutting through the quiet. "This isn't about turkey. This isn't about family. This is about truth." My father's jaw tightened. "Daniel!" "No," I cut him off. My voice shook, but I forced it steady. "You've protected him long enough. Tonight you hear me out." I opened the folder slowly, the papers whispering as I spread them across the table. Photographs, receipts, printouts, evidence. "This is Grayson, at the gas station the night my house burned down," I said, sliding the surveillance still forward. Grainy, but unmistakable. Grayson's car. Grayson pumping gasoline into a red container. Gasps rippled around the table. Grayson's smirk wavered just for a moment. He set down his glass. "That doesn't prove anything. People buy gas every day." "Not at 11:47 p.m., I shot back. "Not with 2 containers. Not when your own grandmother heard you talking about gasoline and me in the garage that night." Grandma, seated quietly at the far end, lowered her eyes but didn't deny it. Mom's voice broke the silence, high and trembling. "Daniel, stop this madness. You're ruining Thanksgiving. You've always been jealous of your brother, but this is too much." I turned to her, my chest burning. "Jealous? You think this is about jealousy? He burned my house to the ground. He tried to erase me." My father's hand slammed the table, rattling glasses. "Enough! You're accusing your own blood of attempted murder on Thanksgiving dinner. Do you hear how insane you sound?" I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. "You want insane? Look at the evidence. Look at the timeline. Look at your golden son for who he really is." Victor's report lay waiting. I slid it forward, the papers landing with a heavy thud. Bar fights, theft, police complaints. Every time you covered for him. Every time you told the world he was innocent. But you can't cover this. Not anymore. Relatives exchanged uneasy glances. A cousin whispered, "Is this true?" Another muttered, "I remember that night at the bar." Grayson's smirk snapped. He shot to his feet, knocking over his chair. "This is bullshit. He's making it all up. Look at him, desperate for attention, twisting everything." "Sit down!" my father barked, but his voice cracked, unsteady. Grayson froze, glaring at me with eyes filled not with confidence but fear. I stood too, my hands trembling but firm as I held up the final piece. The receipt with Grayson's card used to buy gas that night. "This is your handwriting," I said coldly, slamming the signed slip onto the table. "This is your card, your car, your face on the tape. The only thing left is your confession." The room was dead silent. No one moved. Grayson's lips parted, a stutter escaping, but no words followed. His mask had cracked wide open. For the first time in my life, I watched him crumble. Mom's hands shook as she clutched her napkin. No, it can't be." Dad's face had gone pale, his eyes darting between me, the evidence, and his precious son. "Say something," he demanded, his voice cracking. "Tell them it's not true." But Grayson stayed silent, his jaw working, his eyes wild. And in that silence, the truth screamed louder than flames. I leaned forward, my voice steady, cutting through the suffocating quiet. "For years, you ignored me. For years, you pretended I didn't exist, while you worshipped him. Well, now you can't ignore me anymore. The fire destroyed my house, but tonight, I burn your illusions. This family isn't whole, it's rotten. And it's time you faced it." The table was frozen, every eye on me, every secret dragged into the light. And as I looked at Grayson, sweating, trembling, his mask shattered, I realized this was only the beginning. The dining room was frozen. The warmth of Thanksgiving had curdled into a heavy, suffocating silence. The evidence I had laid bare, photos, receipts, Victor's reports, scattered across the oak table like shards of glass, each one cutting through the carefully crafted illusions my parents had protected for years. For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was the faint crackle of the fireplace, a cruel reminder of flames I couldn't forget. Grayson stood rigid at the far end of the table. His face was pale, beads of sweat rolling down his temple. His smirk was gone. In its place was something raw, fear tangled with rage. Finally he laughed, a short hollow sound that sent a shiver through the room. "You all really believe this?" he said, his voice breaking into a shout. "You're going to take his word over mine? Daniel, the failure, the jealous nobody?" His eyes locked onto mine, blazing with venom. "You've always wanted to destroy me. You've been jealous since we were kids, and now you think some blurry photos and lies from Grandma are going to erase me?" The room erupted. An uncle muttered, "He does look like the one in that picture." An aunt gasped, covering her mouth. A cousin whispered, "I always knew something was off with him." Mom shot to her feet, her napkin dropping to the floor. Her voice cracked as she tried to steady herself. "Stop it. All of you. This is Thanksgiving. Daniel, you've twisted this entire night into a circus." I stared at her, my voice low, trembling with years of bottled anger. "No, Mom. Grayson twisted this family into a circus long ago. I'm just tearing down the tent." She flinched as though I had slapped her. Dad slammed his palm against the table, rattling silverware. "Enough! Both of you!" His face was red, veins standing out in his neck. "Daniel, you've always been dramatic, exaggerating, desperate for attention. You want us to believe your brother, my son, burned your house down? That's insane." I leaned forward, my eyes boring into his. "What's insane is covering for him while he ruins lives. What's insane is watching your other son nearly die in a fire and still pretending he's innocent." The relatives' whispers grew louder. The perfect image of our family was crumbling, right there, under the weight of truth. Grayson's breathing quickened. His chest rose and fell like a cornered animal's. He shoved his chair aside, storming toward me. "You want a confession?" he spat, his face inches from mine. "Fine, maybe I was there, maybe I bought gas, but you can't prove I lit the match." Gasps shot through the room. Mom collapsed back into her chair, sobbing. Dad's hands shook. I didn't move. My voice was calm, steady. You just proved it yourself. Grayson's eyes widened. He realized too late what he'd admitted. He grabbed the folder, ripping pages, shredding evidence in a frantic frenzy. Papers fluttered to the ground like ashes. "You'll regret this, Daniel," he screamed. "I'll make sure of it." Before he could lunge again, Victor stepped forward from the shadows of the room. He had been silent all night, an observer, but now his voice cut sharp and commanding. "Sit down, Grayson." Grayson whirled on him, sneering. "Who the hell are you?" "Victor Ramirez, private investigator, and the police are already on their way." Almost on cue, red and blue lights flashed through the frosted windows. Tires crunched on snow in the driveway. Doors slammed. "Grayson Carter," a voice boomed from outside. "Police department, step outside with your hands where we can see them." The entire room went still. Grayson froze, his face draining of color. "Mom, Dad, tell them I didn't do it." But Mom was weeping silently, her face buried in her hands. Dad's jaw worked soundlessly, his eyes fixed on the wreckage of papers scattered across the floor. For the first time, Grayson realized no one was coming to save him. The officers entered, their presence filling the room with authority. "Grayson Carter," one said firmly, "you're under arrest for arson, reckless endangerment, and attempted harm." They pulled his arms behind his back, snapping cuffs around his wrists. Grayson fought, shouting, thrashing. "This is a setup. Daniel planted it all. He's jealous. He's always been jealous." His eyes locked on mine as they dragged him out. "You'll pay for this, Daniel. You'll pay." But his voice grew smaller as they shoved him into the back of the squad car. The door slammed shut. The sirens wailed. And then he was gone. The dining room sat in stunned silence. No one touched their food. No one spoke for long minutes. Finally, Grandma rose, her frail hands steady on the table's edge. Her voice trembled, but it was resolute. "You all saw it. You all know. Daniel was right. He has always been right. And you." She turned on my parents, her eyes blazing. "You let your favoritism blind you until it nearly destroyed him." Mom sobbed harder. Dad sat rigid, his eyes fixed on the empty chair where Grayson had been. I stood, my chest heaving, but my voice was strong. "You protected him every time. You silenced me every time, but not anymore. Tonight, the truth spoke louder than your denial." No one argued. No one could. The weeks that followed were grueling. The story spread. Neighbors whispered. Reporters called. Relatives kept their distance. But the case was solid. Victor had built it piece by piece. The surveillance footage, the receipts, the witness statements, even Grayson's own outburst caught on multiple phones at Thanksgiving. In court, Grayson tried to play innocent, his lawyer spinning tales of jealousy and sibling rivalry. My parents sat behind him, hollow shells of themselves, unable to meet my eyes. But the evidence was undeniable. When the judge read the verdict, his words echoed like thunder. "Grayson Carter, this court finds you guilty of arson, reckless endangerment, and attempted harm. You are hereby sentenced to 9 years in state prison, with possibility of parole after 6. The gavel struck. The sound was final. That night, I returned to the ruins of my old home. Snow covered the blackened beams, softening them into white mounds. The place that had once symbolized destruction now felt strangely quiet, almost peaceful. I crouched, brushing snow off a charred piece of wood. Memories washed over me. Family dinners, late nights, laughter that once lived here, all stolen, all burned. But as I stood, I realized something. Grayson hadn't won. My parents hadn't silenced me. The fire hadn't destroyed me. It had forged me. I whispered into the night, the words sharp and certain. You tried to burn me away, Grayson, but I survived, and I'll keep surviving, stronger, harder, unbreakable. The wind carried my words into the darkness, and for the first time in years, I felt free.